Okay, so the next job I'm going to tackle on the Keeway is the issue I have with handlebars. Now they're quite narrow and they're quite low, which makes this difficult to ride off-road. So to rectify that, I've got some R-Trax bar risers that'll give me about 1 inch to 2 inches of lift, and some 800mm fat bars, which will obviously sit a lot wider than the factory ones, improving the position it is to ride with this thing. It's going to be a bit of a slow process. Obviously all the hand controls and everything that we've added needs to come off the bars, off the original ones, and we'll fit the bar risers that hopefully should go on without modification, but we'll see. And then it's a case of putting everything back on the bars. But because they're wider, I may need to extend some of the hydraulic lines and the electrical cabling. We won't know that till we start. So let's get into this thing. Okay, so obviously got the handlebars off now. First thing we'll install will be the new bar risers, and the way that they work is by using the original lower half of the saddle, so this guy, that then couples with this. Now this is a two-piece, and the way it works is that this locator basically works with the standard piece, and then that whole section there becomes the mount for the handlebar. Now as you can see, this was the original height of the Keeway handlebars initially. We add this riser and they will be considerably higher. So that's what we're chasing. Higher bars will give me a bit more control off-road. So we'll get into that portion of it now and see how we go. So that has that job done. I'm really happy with how that went. The bar risers went on with no modification. Obviously these are to suit the handlebars that we've got, so that went in easy. I was a little worried about the controls, the wiring and the cables and lines that are on these things can need extending sometimes when you do this sort of work. The only real problem I had was the choke cable. I had to move this, so instead of carrying around this side of the bike as normal, I've basically relocated it down this side of the bike and it crosses over under the tank. Really straightforward, very pleased. All the wiring harness was long enough to cope with the wider handlebars and it all just worked. So very lucky there. Okay, so the handlebars are now completely done. Next job is the headlamp. Doesn't really need to be changed. I'm just going to swap it out for an LED unit. It's a personal preference thing. I like the way they look and I want a bit of a brighter light. This thing's completely legal and does everything it needs to do, but I just want a slightly better unit, so that's the next part. It's just a matter of cracking the retaining bolts on either side of the headlight bucket. On this particular one it's a 12mm, probably different on yours, but that's what this guy is. Okay, that is the bucket out. There should be 2 Phillips head screws that retain the front of this, and then a clip, and that, once unplugged, is that. So we'll go over to the workbench now. I'm going to make this a little harder for myself than it needs to be. I want to use the original headlight bucket and surround, just because they're a bit better quality than the one that came with the LED light. The finish is smooth on this one, the other one's got like a mottled finish, but you'll see that shortly when we go to the workbench. Alright, so this is the new headlight unit. So like I was saying, it's LED, so we've got the halo and then an HID centre light. I don't like the finish on this comparative to the Keeway's one. I don't know if that's going to show up on film or not, but this is really smooth. This more has a rough finish. So we'll disassemble this one, and hopefully everything should fit into the standard Keeway bucket. They're both 6.5 inch headlights, so we will see shortly. Okay, so off camera I've cut the plug from the original Keeway's headlamp. Really simple wiring job here. So you've got your park and your high-low beam and then a common earth. It's exactly the same on the LED one. So we've got our park lights, which are the halo, and high-low, and then a common earth. So all I've done is cut the fittings that were on the end of this off and sorted on the original Keeway unit. Really straightforward, really simple. What I'm going to attempt to do now is that all these retention clips are what hold the lenses in on the respective buckets. I want to take this ring off of both, and I'm hoping that I should be able to basically just take all the guts out of this one and swap it into the Keeway unit. If that works, that means I can do what I'm aiming to do and keep the original Keeway bucket. If it doesn't work, I'm going to have to put this guy on the Keeway, which again, because I don't like the finish, I don't want to use it. That's all it comes down to. It's a preference thing. Probably making this a lot harder for myself than it needs to be, but I like my bikes to be a particular way. So I will now try and make this work. Okay, so I've now got both units apart. It's just a matter of popping the little retention springs from the circumference of each. The LED ones come apart in 2 points, so we've got the lens cover, the unit itself, which obviously don't want to be touching, and then the frontal ring. Keeway one is a conventional headlamp, so same sort of deal, and then the ring. So put that aside. Hopefully what I can do is make this guy work with the original Keeway's hoop or ring or whatever you wish to call it, and that means that I'll be able to use the original bucket. So looks like that should possibly work. I might need to use a bit of a mix of parts here. I don't know which retention springs are going to be the best fit. I'll start with the genuine Keeway one and just see what happens, but these do look a bit bigger than the ones they came with, so I'm not sure. But there's only one way to find out. These can be a bit of a pain. They just slot into the outer ring and clip under the leading edge, but that's a lot easier said than done. Okay, yeah, these are going to be too big. So what that's done, because this spring is too big for this unit, it's pushed the whole thing off center. Don't know if you can see that or not. So it looks like I am going to need to use the small ones. Okay, that should be that. That looks like it's gone pretty well actually. The unit's nice and centered. I've got the orientation the right way. So we'll go back to the bike and yeah, see how this is going to go. Okay, so now that we've got this assembled, it's just a reversal of what we did when pulling it apart. So we'll plug this guy back into its original loom, 2 retention screws at the bottom, and then the bolts for the side of the bucket. And it should all work, assuming that I've got this right. So what we'll do, it's nice and easy to fit these, which is good. This will just loop around on itself, and there's a clip at the top which locates there, and then we just need to line these guys up. That. A couple of retention screws, and we are away. And the other on this side. Okay. And what I'm going to do here before I finish bolting this up is just test it to make sure it's going to work. So ignition on means park light on. In this case, there we go, see a little better. In this case it's the halo. It's pretty nicely centered, I'm happy with that. If I start the bike, the headlight should fire up on low beam and then high. Oops, that's low beam and high beam. So everything works as it should. So that's a success. I'll finish mounting this up, and that's job done.
Good morning, guys. So we're back today, and as you can see, Troy is with us today. So last night when I got in from work, I didn't film it because it was a bit rainy and a bit cold, but I resanded the tank after I primed, so she's ready for the paint to be laid down today. And just behind me, on the ground, is the first parts we're going to start on. So we've got the 2 side pieces, the front guard, and the rear cowling. So yeah, I hope this goes well. The green's going to go down now.
Excited to see this go down. I've been itching to get over the top. So.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I've been talking about it for a while now. So yeah, now's literally the day it's going to happen.
Let's get into it.
Done. Right guys, the green paint has been laid. Not fully finished, final coat yet. We had a bit of a change as we were going for it. So I bought 2 different colours from Rust-Oleum Camo Green. I've got a light one and a dark one. So as you can see, the dark was quite dark. It was quite browny. So my initial idea was to use that as a base coat to then build the light on top to lighten the paint up. When I laid it, actually turned out to be quite a nice green. And the light one, when we laid it, turned out real yellowy, eh?
Yeah, it's quite a weird colour. It's green, but it's got like a yellow base through it. So yeah. It dried nicer than it went down wet, but it's not the right colour.
No, it's not the colour I wanted and had in my mind to finish. So what we ended up doing is doing a base coat of the light colour. Yep. And we're now going to go over it with the dark to darken it up and give the final coat. And hopefully it comes out as to what I'm planning.
Well, what that should do is putting the lighter colour down as a base. When you put the darker colour over the top, it should lighten the darker one up a little bit, if that makes sense.
The light should come through a bit.
So it should be close as we can get to the colour that Chris is chasing.
Yeah, and just for an FYI, neither of us are painters. We're not automotive painters, so this is very much a workshop project. Yep. But hey, I'm sure we can make it work.
And the guys have seen the abuse these bikes have taken, so you know this any work is going to be good work on these things.
Exactly. But yeah, bear with us, guys.
that was a very successful day.
It definitely was. So my little red cherry bike has gone from red to green. Big thanks to Troy here. Gave me quite a bit of knowledge and experience and help when it came to laying the paint. Different techniques, especially when it came to the clear coat. So I guess it's now time to show you what it looks like all finished and ready. So what I'll do, I'll just spin the camera around. And here we are. Nicely green. So it's 2 good coats of the green camo. Deep Forest, I think this one was called. So as you can see, for a rattle can job, it's actually pretty good. And what we've done was we applied some matte clear coat. Just to 1, give the paint a bit of protection, and 2, keep it going nicely. What I do need to do though is just in the future retouch up this black piece on the side cowlings. It's actually worn through to the red paint, but it has given me the idea to put some red back on the bike in some way, whether it's pinstripes or not. So I would say that that is a pretty successful day.
Yeah, there's not many paint jobs you can say were about $70 and to come up with the quality that they have, but it's the old adage of take your time and do it right the first time. So
yeah, definitely. And it does also just prove two amateurs can do quite a good job in a garage. So
exactly.
Hope you guys have found a bit of inspiration to make some simple modifications to yours. Cool. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
So this is what the Keeway sounds with a hole, well, that off.
Catch you, man. She coming or nah? There it is.
Do as I say, not as I do. Should be good. The mask on.
Are we ready?
Still rowdy, but nowhere near as bad.
Not so fucking raspy. That sounds pretty good. Look, we got the Keeway sounding like a monster. Sounds pretty much stock to me. Quite happy with that. Right guys, so you have seen over the last few weeks us modifying our bikes. I didn't actually do as much as I planned. I still have a little bit to do, but it's gone on the back burner as I have another project in mind. But we've done everything, well, I think Troy's done everything he wanted.
I've done pretty much everything I can.
Yep.
There's a couple of things left, so a new bash plate and bits and pieces, new front guard, but that's all has to be done out of house. I don't have the fabrication tools I need for that. But essentially, bikes are done.
So we've done it, you've seen it. I guess we've got to take them for a ride, really,
That's
don't
all
we?
that's really left. So yeah, so in the next episode, guys, that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you.
Bye.